Welcome to Mission Oriented, a VeteranCrowd podcast that showcases veteran talent from both the private and public sectors. Their impact is everywhere. We are here to uncover it. Here's your host, Bob Louthan.
Well, welcome to the Mission Oriented podcast on the VeteranCrowd Network. My guest today is Brendan Aronson. Brendan is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, a graduate of the Wharton School, MBA at Wharton, and one of the co-founders and CEOs of the Military Veteran, and also an associate at Context Ventures. We're going to be talking about the MilVets Conference and some other things today. Brendan, thanks for being a guest on the program. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, I want to dive in and tell everybody about the Military Veteran, and then we'll talk a little bit about Context Ventures, and we'll talk about MilVets. But let's start with the Military Veteran and that spot.
Sure thing. The Military Veteran is a company I started with my business partner, Tim Shaw. Tim is the general partner at Context Ventures. I've known Tim since we worked together at a nonprofit called Service to School. Service to Schools help thousands of veterans matriculate in higher ed at some of the nation's leading undergraduate programs, MBA programs, law schools, and medical schools. And we teamed up wanting to start a company to help veterans transition into the next phase of their careers. Today, the Military Veteran does two things for veterans. First, we host these career conferences. Those are primarily for transitioning veterans. So we've got one coming up in April, which we're really excited about. We're expecting about 175 attendees. We've got a great lineup of speakers who are business executives from across industries. We've got investors and finance professionals. We've got consultants. We've got CEOs of 10 to $100 million a year companies. Past speakers have included the CEO of Johnson & Johnson, General David Petraeus, the chairman of Tokyo Electron, which is a $70 billion semiconductor business, and other fantastic business executives. So it's a great place to come and learn about careers and build your professional network.
This is going to be held in Austin, and what are the dates in April?
It's April 25th and 26th.
We'll put a link to the conference and make sure to put it in the show notes so everybody can check that out.
It's going to be a really fun one. Again, it's a great place to come learn about careers and meet a bunch of fantastic folks that can be helpful to you in your business career. The other thing that we do through the Military Veteran is headhunting. Most of the roles that we work to fill are for military veterans looking to break into executive roles. We help private equity and venture capital backed businesses hire military veterans into these leadership roles. Most of these companies, when we talk to them, are really excited to bring someone onto the team that has a tremendous amount of leadership experience leading diverse teams from their time in the military, and they also have business experience. Most of our candidates have spent 2 to 20 years in business. And so we're plugging them in oftentimes to lead $10 to $50 million a year companies. So that's a bit about the Military Veteran. We also host informal happy hours across the country, which are a ton of fun. Again, a great way to build your network. That's the Military Veteran. Happy to
let's shift now to you talked about Tim Shaw and Context Ventures. Last year I attended the MilVets conference in San Francisco. Best conference ever. I mean, with hands down, just spectacular. I think y'all are going to be busting at the seams next month, but let's talk about that.
I'm glad you had a good time. The Military Veteran Startup Conference is my favorite event of the year. So in San Francisco on February 8th and 9th, we're going to be convening over 450 military veterans, entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and early stage operators. We have a fantastic slate of speakers, a great agenda. You can find out more at MilVetStartups.com. We've got all the speakers listed there as well as the agenda. It's a great place to come learn about building a company from folks that have done it incredibly successfully. We've got venture capitalists who are managing over $1 billion in assets under management and have been investing into early stage companies for decades. We've got entrepreneurs who have built unicorn companies. These are companies valued at over $1 billion. They're going to share their best advice for building companies, whether it's going from 0 to 1 and making your first sales or scaling your business from $1 million through $100 million. It's a great place to come learn about the next phase of growing your business. If you're an early stage operator, it's a great place to go and meet a bunch of founders who are going to be hiring. If you're a venture capitalist, it's a great place to come and meet a bunch of potential investments. It's an awesome networking event. And more holistically, look, like, in-person networking events, it's a bit ironic because I run a networking business, but I'm a little bit of an introvert, to be honest. And I'm always a bit intimidated by in-person events. The Military Veteran Startup Conference is different because everybody has this shared service background. So
Exactly.
the ice is broken automatically, and it's just an
It's
ton
the
of fun.
opposite of the middle school dance. Everybody's
Yeah,
not standing around the corners. I mean, once you get past the insults about, what color crayons do you prefer to chew on,
totally.
right? That sort of thing. It's a great event. It really is. It's fantastic.
Everybody knows that Marines prefer blue crayons. They're the most delicious. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I love the middle school dance analogy. I always feel that way, but never at the Military Veteran Startup Conference. It's a ton of fun. It's just a great place to meet new friends. Look, building a startup is incredibly hard. It's very difficult. I've done it a few times, and even when it goes well, it's still hard. But this is a group of people that know your background. They know what you're capable of, and they're there to help one another, which is just a really inspiring way to spend your time. So I'm really looking
My,
forward
my
to
my
that.
question for people out there is not why should you go? It's why aren't you going? I
Yeah.
mean, literally, that's the way I feel about it. I'm bringing a couple of my colleagues with me. I'm going to expose them to this. They are not veterans, but they, are seasoned executives that I'm bringing, and one of them's an Army brat. I think they're going to love it. I think they're going to have it. Hey, I told you before the podcast I was going to shift gears on you a little bit. There's an interesting little tidbit in your LinkedIn profile that while you were at the Wharton School, you took some of your colleagues to Quantico and let them train with Marines. There's got to be some good stories behind that, Brendan.
Oh man,
I got to know.
you dug in. I love it. Yeah, so Wharton runs this program called the Venture Fellows Program, where they take you on like a backpacking trip, and the idea is to teach leadership through the outdoors. Most of the trips are like a week long. They go to all kinds of incredible places for these backpacking trips. But one of the trips is like a shorter 48-hour intensive, is what it's called. And they either go down to Quantico to train with the Marines or up to FDNY to train with the firefighters in New York. So as one of a handful of Marines in my class, I got tagged in to lead this trip. We went down to Quantico. The Marine Corps is like incredibly generous with their time to be willing to do this.
Did
We
they
take them.
treat you like an officer, or did they treat you like everybody else for this thing?
Well, I was like, personally, I was walking around with a pretty significant beard,
Uh,
and I was thankfully not getting yelled at like a lot of the participants were. But it was a good chance for me to meet the colonel who runs Officer Candidate School. So it takes place at Officer Candidate School. They spend the first night like 4 or 5 hours getting absolutely grilled by these drill instructors, which is a pretty comical event. People are not used to being yelled at or to
Did,
yelling.
did, did, did you have some classmate of yours that candidly you were kind of like looking forward to seeing them subjected to that?
Oh man, I was like, please roast these people. No,
There you go.
no, the participants, I think it's like part of it is self-selecting to go do this kind of intense experience that's very much outside your comfort zone. And so they were enthusiastic about it. I think an interesting story, there was one person from the executive MBA program. They take them and run on day 2 through the Quigley, which is this like notorious obstacle course for Marine Corps Officer Candidate School. And there's a part of
What's
it where
the one thing that there's one where you got to like crawl through this water filled,
that's the one.
yeah, that's it. That's no fun. Yeah.
So they go through the Quigley, and
Yeah.
this person was like had to go under like logs that were submerged in the water, and they have all their gear on, and they've run for like a mile. It's not like a terribly long. They only do a portion of the Quigley. It's like a 5-mile course, I think, or something like that. But anyway, so this person, the Marines are like, go under the log, and they're yelling at this person, and he's like, I can't. I've never like swam underwater before. And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to do it. And so they basically kept yelling at him, wouldn't let him pass until he did it. And then finally, he came up to me afterwards and was like, this is one of the most meaningful experiences of my life. I've never approached a situation where I thought I couldn't do something and was told you have to do it, and then overcame that fear. I think this is something that veterans probably take for granted, as just like a basic part of our existence. And so to see it from a fresh perspective was, it really was like pretty moving, to be honest. I mean, it sounds like a ridiculous, all of us would say like, okay, like going under a log in the water, no big deal. But for someone to be pushed outside of their comfort zone and overcome that fear was a pretty, important moment in this person's life. So it was a ton of fun. And again, it really reinforces what veterans bring to the workforce and bring to the startup community is this can-do fighting spirit that they're going to overcome the obstacles in their path. So ton of fun in that event.
I imagine that group of people, I don't know how many went, but that was a bonding experience for that particular group. I bet when they came back to Wharton after that, they were hanging out, drinking beers. And
Yeah.
am I right?
You're absolutely right. They had a few beers with the Marine instructors at the end of the event too, and the Marines got a ton out of it. They were like, "This is really cool to be able to see, a bunch of civilians and show them a bit of our culture." And so everybody seemed to have a really good time, and it was a great bonding experience for sure.
Closing comments. I am very much looking forward to seeing everybody at MilVet's conference. It's just a little less than a month away right now. And any last things that we need to share, and how do you like for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Closing comments, I would say, look, founders, early stage operators, folks are incredibly busy. At any stage of your career, you typically have more on your plate than you have time to do. This is an event worth carving the time out for. It's an incredibly high ROI event. I think if you tell someone like, hey, you're going to come build your network, it's the thought is like, well, I don't want to fall behind on my work. I have a million other things to do. I promise you, the ROI on this event is incredibly high. The relationships that you'll develop through in-person will make a dramatic impact on your business. Veterans tend to struggle sometimes with asking for help. We try and we'll run through a brick wall and we want to figure out how to do it ourselves. And if you're a Marine, you'll typically lead with your head into that brick wall. But, no one can build a company alone. And the Military Veteran Startup Conference is a great place to meet other founders who are going through what you're going through, who have been through what you're going through and achieve that next stage of growth and can provide you with the best strategic and tactical advice for the place that you are in building your business. So we certainly hope to see your audience there. While you're at the event, please come up and say hi. I'd love to meet every single one of the attendees. If you're looking to reach out and learn more, you can reach out via email at brendan@contextvc.com. You can also reach out on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit slower with my LinkedIn replies, so email is typically a better channel for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next month in San Francisco, and you as well next month, Bob.
Hey, I could not agree with you more. I mean, you can make more connections and meet more people in one place in 48 hours than you could do in a month of Sundays and a lot of plane trips. So if you're not signed up for it and you're thinking about it, for God's sakes, pull the trigger and get out there. We'll all look forward to seeing you. Hey, Brendan, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's been great to hear the story about taking the folks down to Quantico. I knew that was going to be a good one. And listen, I just can't say how much I appreciate what you guys are doing. So thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you've been listening to the Mission Oriented podcast on the VeteranCrowd Network. Again, my guest has been Brendan Aronson, co-founder and CEO of the Military Veteran and Associated Context Vendors. Brendan, I'll throw out an Army Bravo Zulu to you for your time with us today. And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to Mission Oriented. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. To learn more about Mission Oriented and the VeteranCrowd Network, visit us at www.veterancrowdnetwork.com.